Good afternoon. Welcome to Information Architecture. We are Tuesday, February 9th, and I hope your week has been good so far. I will be recording some part of the today's session. So if you remember, I have shifted the lab hours to the Thursday morning so that we have the lab very following the lecture. So we are still in theory on last week's content. And then I'm going to go and introduce the top-down approach to information architecture. It is a topic that we're not going to be spending much time, but I felt that I needed to share with you some highlights as well. It's mentioned in the course curriculum, and it's related to information architecture. Obviously, user and user goals in the end of the day, but we are going to be touching on this. But attending today's session is optional. Like any other blocks of hours that are not in your schedule, official schedule. But I will be recording so you can actually listen to the session on your own as you wish. I will give a few more clarifications about the card sorting assignment, which is also due this week. So last week topic was card sorting, and there's an assignment this week which is due on Wednesday. So that is tomorrow at midnight, and it is worth 20 points as well towards your final mark. So 20 points is not negligible, and there were some questions around the cart assignments that I thought I would bring more clarity based on some of the students' feedback that I have received by email as well. So first of all, for the assignment, you only need to pick 50 of the cards. So you only need to pick 50 cards from the Excel sheet. There are more than 50. I think there are 116. So you need to pick 50 of them. And then once you chose 50 cards, you can ignore the rest. You can actually even ignore the Excel document at this stage. You can completely forget about the Excel sheets. As I've said, I want you to submit your assignment on Miro. I want you to send me a link to your Miro, and then I'll be able to look at your assignments and what you have produced on Miro as well. Very, very important. Now, this is a card sorting. So all team members have to do card sorting with two people that are outside of the program using the same 50 cards. So the team has to select 50 cards that you're going to do your card sorting on, and everybody's going to use those 50 cards. And then all team members have to do 2 card sorting sessions with participants, with 2 people individually that are not in the school or in the UXD program. So they can be outside of the program, but they cannot be team members of your team. They cannot be in this class. They cannot be in UXD. They have to be outside of our program. You need to do 2 separate individual card sorting using the same 50 cards. And that is really important. The assignment is about doing cart sorting and being able to take results from multiple cart sorting and then come up to a consensus or a common way of groupings and way of labeling as well. So you have to, at the end of the day, in Miro, I want you to share with me what you have learned from the exercise, and there are more instructions on Miro. But this, I only need one for the teams. But obviously, it will be based on what each has experienced as they were doing their card sorting. Also, this will be based on doing your consolidation of your findings as a team. You're going to have maybe 10 card sorting activities. So you have to look for patterns. What was in common? What's in common and what's not so in common? You may actually decide that there's some cards that you don't really know where to go or where to put them. But I would say you have to make some decisions on those cards. And then you have to take all of what you have come up with for your card sorting and come up with a new way with groupings, with a grouping and labelings that is aligned with what you've seen in the card sorting. So it's not that at the end you're not going to redo a card sorting as a team using the same 50 cards. You have to agree on what is the grouping and what are the labels that are common that you found across all of the participants in the activities. So you're not doing a cart sorting with your team member, you're doing individually, but you have to agree on what is the new grouping of the cards, how the cards should be grouped based on what you've seen across all the sessions, and the categories. What will be the name of the categories for each of the cards? If you feel that you need to change some of the cards, that you can also show that, indicate that if you want. And if you want to add some cards, then that's also something that you could do. But I would say try to stay away from adding more cards. But you can make note of it and say, participants have found that the following are missing. But we know there'll be some missing because you only use 50 out of 116 as well. But very, very important. So your ultimate goal is to come out with a grouping for the 50 cards, but using groupings that the participants have given you, looking at patterns and what's in common, and then coming up with category names that the participant also might have given you as recommendations for the categories and how they would label these cards. But do not do a card sorting again on the 50 cards with your team. That's not the goal. So you have to keep as much of what you found, looking at patterns during the card. And then if you're redoing your own team card sorting, it defeats the purpose because you're not the user. Remember, why we do card sorting is because we're not the user. You're so close to your project that you need to go out to participants that are somehow people that would want to go to the zoo, that you've asked to group based on what makes sense to them as potential visitor of the zoo, or as people that have been to the zoo before, or people that have been to a zoo before. So you're going to look at what they have given you, and you're going to take that and then decide on the new way of grouping, or the way of grouping those 50 cards that based on what you've seen across the sessions. But it's not for you to do your own card sorting because that is, you may as well not have done any of the individual card sorting. So I hope this makes sense. This is due for tomorrow by midnight, and you have to send me a link to your Miro so I can see your Miro, and make sure you don't erase anybody's work. So I think it's better if on Miro you actually create your own template of Miro and you send me the link, and then no one else can erase it. That would be ideal. So when you've done the sessions, but by now you should have probably all done the sessions. There's some questions during the card sorting session that you can ask, but I think it's probably late now because I'm hoping that you've all done your individual session. But you can ask why they've put certain cards in with a group and not others. If they've left some card alone, why were they not able to sort them? The reason why we do card sorting is to get more insight on how they actually think of this, what this label means to them as well, and why they're having a challenge to find it at home. That will reveal you a lot of insights about how they think, their mental model, right? And you could have asked them if there were cards that they expected to see that they haven't. You can make note of it. Perhaps they're in the 1/16. And if there was a category beyond the given ones, that will be. Now, because you've done open card sorting, you did not give them categories, so they will have thought about categories. But if you were doing sorted card, closed card sorting, where you give them categories and you tell them to map a card to a specific category, then you could ask them if they felt that there would be a category for some of the cards that you haven't thought of as well. But very, very important to follow the instruction. I look forward to getting the assignment. And if there are any questions, please reach out to me by email. Some of you have. I hope this will help and get more clarity. Hi, Leah. Good to see you. And then what we're going to do today, we are going to talk about the top-down and bottom-up IAs, and what are top-downs and bottom-up IAs. And I will be available at the end to answer any questions that you may have as well. I will be happy to help and answer any questions that you might have after the class in this lecture. Great, I'm glad to hear, Leah. And it's really important to do card sorting. This is the exercise. Now, you could be cheating. Anybody could decide to do their own card sorting and never do the card sorting, which will defeat your purpose of doing this class in the first place. I'm confident that everybody's going to do the card sorting as instructed by the assignment. If you don't, and I find out that you haven't, yes, it's not fun. It's considered plagiarism. So, and you all know the rules about plagiarism. You get 0% of your mark, and then you get 0%, the team gets 0%. So I don't know this is a risk you're willing to take. If you haven't done it then and done the real code sorting, I say take it, do it. It doesn't take time. But if you haven't done it, and if I find out that you did not go through the card sorting, and I can easily find out because if you've done it, you'll be able to speak about it very clearly, and I've done it, and I know what the challenges are. So then it's plagiarism, you get 0 mark, your team gets 0 mark. So I would say don't take that risk. This is why we do card sorting. You do card sorting because you're not sure what the best way is to actually group those 50 cards. Second, we are not the user, we don't know how to think. The third one, this will be the basis for your IA. So tomorrow we're going to talk about information architecture. Yay! Week 4, and we're signed up for information architecture. You probably think it was about time. There's so much we have to think about before we actually do the IA. And I've said it's easy to put boxes, do an org chart, and put boxes and labels, and look at air miles, the websites. They have nice labels and nice boxes, but it's hard to use because they've mixed up concept. So very, very important. The card sorting is the basis. Very, very important to do. And yes, hopefully you'll be doing usability testing, and you're going to find out if it was a good IA or not. But at least you will have based it on participants, real people outside of you, outside of the class. And then you're going to be able to do an assessment if you choose to do user validation, usability testing as well with real user. But make sure that you do your card sorting on your own, and then come to the team, and then you discuss what you found, what has come up, and it's a very, very easy exercise. The most difficult is probably to look at patterns and agree on the groupings, but it's not you who's agreeing on the grouping, it's what the user have told you. It's finding what's common and what's not so common and making decisions, right? But it's being able to explain why you make decision will be as critical. I'm more interested in the process than the final, because I know the final, you may have a chance to do validation, but the process is as if not even more important. So glad to hear that you found this was useful. So I'm going to be sharing now the top-down and bottom-up architecture cited structure. And why does it matter, and how does it matter, and what is it? There's a reference in the course curriculum that I felt that you needed to be aware of, and I wanted to use this session to expand a little bit on a very, very specific topic that you may find useful when it's time to do your IA. But we've been speaking about this. We've been speaking about top-down and bottom-up. We just haven't labeled what we were discussing and what I was describing to you in class as top-down and bottom-up. But you will understand what it is and what it does. But we've already been speaking about this. From the first moment that we've been doing the heuristic evaluation of any assignment or any labs, we've been doing top-down and bottom-up, but we just haven't been putting a label. But now you will understand what it is exactly. So this is part of the reading this week. So I've from last week, I've added it as one of the reading, and I even added card sorting, top-down and bottom-up IAs, so you have a reference. But let's discover what that is. For some of you, this diagram may be familiar. You may have already seen this in the past. So, and you can use the zoom in for to the left of your screen, just below your the open session menu. To the top left, you'll have where you have the big magnifier. Then you can do bigger or smaller font size if you want. But let's look at this visual. So this visual, I think, came from Jesse James Garrett, and I think there's a book on there too. And I do have a lot of articles that I found last night that I think I may just add more to the readings as optional, but it's only going to help you to be better IA specialist. So what this visual says something about the elements of user experience and what is a good user experience. And then it looks at a parallel of software design versus web. And I think hypertext, think of the software on the left-hand side. We can think of web as a software interface design, as your the web as we know it today. It's very, very transactional. The web is a mix of content, and it's a mix of actions. I can buy, I can read a blog, I can buy products, I can submit a form, I can do a lot. And in fact, when you think of Google Drive, it's a software, web software. But before we had the web to be so software application based, it was very much about hypertext. On the right hand side, we have hypertext system, and where we think of hyperlinks and information, very information driven and very hypertext and very information driven or information oriented, as we mentioned it to the right, and then task oriented. What I will do is I will load this document in here so I can point, because I can't point out, so that we can look on screen. It just take a few minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna need a magnifier. Great. So task-oriented, our website today are very task-oriented. So we don't come online to just read about our competitor. We don't come online to just read about a particular topic or a blog article. We actually come to do things. So that means that there's been we've become a lot more sophisticated on who do we need on the team to design good software design, not just the information architect, but functional architecture, interaction design, visual design. There was a time where the same person would do all of this, but now we've expanded. Versus when it was primarily about information oriented. So this is where information architecture came initially. We were building website for content. It was very much about content. You would have companies 20 years ago. Companies would actually build their own website, and most companies had no website. So we needed to build a website, and then what we would do is we would look at what do we have, what kind of content do we have available to our site today, what do we want to put on our website. So you would find like promotion, deals. You would find cell phones information. If you work at Rogers, you would find cell phone information, and then you would probably have something that would say, call us if you want, or visit us to a store. It was not necessarily where you could actually buy yet online. The travel industry, I think, was a little bit more advanced, but it was really, really information-based, and it was not transactional. So now we say task-oriented. I think you can also think of transactional. In here, it was information. These days are gone. So we're more about doing doing things online, and then getting people to do everything online. So it has added more complexity. So, but information architecture was very relevant. It's still very relevant. But now, but as I said, it would very much start with content. Well, obviously the user needs, objective needs. What do we want? Well, we need a website because all of our competitors have a website, and we just want to talk about Rogers, why Rogers, and our phones, and have people to call. So you would look at what kind of content do we have. Maybe you wanted to put some FAQs as well. And then you would do the information architecture in here. Then we would design the IA the way we wanted. And then it was very, very content-based. Then you would do your navigation design. We're going to talk about navigation next week. And then you have your visual design. The visual design is still very, very relevant to both, equally relevant. But information architecture has become more complex, and there's an element of interaction design now as well that we have, which is also part of, to me, it's also part of the IA. But you may have people that all of what they do is interaction design. They work very closely with you as IA information architecture. But I would say as the information architecture or as the interaction design, what you need, and you all need to agree to, is to understand the business, the user needs, the site objective, and the business and what we're trying to do. And I think often the business or the site objective, I think, will be the top down as well. It's often you're gonna have the business will tell you that they want to do they want to meet certain objectives, and then the user, I think, will be the bottom up part, the way that I would divide it up. So the business will say you have to have all of these elements and all of this content on the site. But then you will have it to look at the user and you will say, when the user comes to my site, what is the user trying to do? How does he find me? And what is he interested in? What is relevant for him now? And then how is he going to know that this is a place that he should have come or have visited? And what's the next thing that we want him to do? So you're doing interaction design too. So me, I haven't used top down or bottom up. I've used information architecture, designing for user, defining for user needs, and your goal, your job is to find room for all of this into your IA, into your design. So I haven't got locked down into top down, up, bottom up. I've been focusing on what is the business trying to do and who are the user, what's logical to the user, what is their task, how do they think about this thing, and how do I facilitate that to them? So information architecture is a good information architect realizes that a beautiful designed site with poorly indexed content, clunky navigation, and long loading time is essentially useless. So if you think of this site, I would say I would qualify this site as really busy. I hear often busy, and I don't like when people say busy because to me it means nothing. Plus busy, as I said, the grocery store is very busy. Any mall is very busy, but they're structured in such a way that you know you find your way through. You know when you walk into Loblaws, you're going to have all these products. They're going to try to sell you, but if you're only interested in milk, you're going to go. You know because we've trained you. Same thing when you go to IKEA, right? So you go, you have a task, you're task oriented. You want to find that cart of milk and you want to go through the cashier, get your money out and take a bag or you bring your own bag and you're done. What has happened around busy or no busy did not matter. You were still successful. But if you know information architecture, we're trying to provide access to information. We're trying to provide access to content. We're trying to provide access to an area for the consumer to be able to shop, to be able to get their answer about their return policy, the FAQ. So you need to facilitate. They have a question they're searching for, and you need to support them and be there for them. So we've learned that there's many ways that they will do it, but busy sometimes is okay, but you just have to make sure, can user find the option? Can user find the place where they should be shopping? Can user find my telephone number? Can user find my FAQ? That's a user goal. If they can't, and you answer the question, then you succeeded. It didn't matter what was going on around. But as an I, you need to know this, and you need to have a sense of what the sequence would probably be of the user. So the most fundamental mistake that people make regarding I is assuming that their user think about the subject matter the same way that they do. And that's wrong, right? This is why we do cart sorting, right? Why we do cart sorting. That's really the reason, the only reason that we do cart sorting, so that we don't fall in the trap of us thinking that we are the user. But sometimes we don't have access to the user. So when we don't have access to the user, then yes, we have to go with our best guess estimate at that particular moment. But hopefully you have done cart sorting, you've done usability testing before, so you know and you can anticipate what may be a challenge and may not be a problem. So in other words, sometimes designers fall into the trap of really only designing for themselves. So that's why I said for this assignment, don't do your own cart sorting as a team because you're doing what you've learned from the user, right? So it's easy for us to go into defining in solution mode, but we have to make sure that if we involve the user, we're going to reuse what we found, the learning that we found. So the view of your site from inside the organization will always differ from the view from the outside. Sometimes the difference will be very dramatic. Remember Air Miles. Air Miles think that they probably designed a very good site because they have what they are familiar in the business. Reward offers, reward travel. They all know what travel means, but the consumer doesn't. So they've looked at it from the inside. It's around the business. Sunwing had a few examples as well that I share with you. But you need to have to step down, and you have to really, really think through as a user and bring that insight home. So when we think of top-down design, you may hear it's the practice of designing a website based upon the designer expertise or familiarity with understanding the needs of the user. So it doesn't mean you don't have an understanding of the users, but you're going to start from top down and assuming that someone may actually come to your homepage, and then they'll look for a category that may actually make sense to them. You're going to decide on the number of categories, you're going to decide on the label, and then you're just going to assume they're going to click and see what they actually may be interested in. Is this what they're looking for or not? They're going to click, and then you're kind of like giving them a path through your website. The other way that someone will come to your site, and I did say this is 70% of the time, or up to 50% of the time, they're not going to come through from the top of your website. They're not going to come to the top of your tree. They're not going to come to the homepage. They're not going to come and click and see on your categories. They're actually going to land on the page. They're going to land on the spot. And if you remember, we had our tree, and then our tree had we had a spot here, and then we had the branches, and then we had the branches, and then we had the other one in here, and then we have trees and trees. And often they're gonna come to this. They're gonna actually land on this particular site of your architecture. They're gonna need to make sense. They're gonna look around and see, okay, is this what I was interested in? I went to Google and I said shop for shoes, and then I get to Roots and I see Roots and I see a page that has their shoes or their shoes. I may not know Roots, I may know Roots, but I will be looking quickly. They will be looking. They will be paying attention to this. They will be paying attention to this. They will be paying attention to this. They'll be paying attention on the page and what's around it. So this is the bottom up. Then they'll say, perhaps there is a call to action, right? Buy now. They will probably going to be expecting it. Do they see it? Don't they see it? So that would be assuming that they know. But this is really the reality, is most of you people will come, and they will come, and this is what they will see when they will come to your site. They will begin, their journey will begin in here. So the bottom up is on the landing, and you're landing on the specific landing pages, and you're trying to make sense of what is around them. And also, you as a UX and as an information architecture, you want to make sure that when they come to that experience with the keywords, or when they come to this page, that it's really clear what they need to do or what you want them to do. And then that is part of IA. And that landing page will be surrounded by other elements and other noises that you will need to be aware that you will structure. But these will be decisions that you will make as a IA information architecture. At the end of the day, I would say you don't have to think about top down and bottom up. You have to think about the business, and you have to think about the user. What is the user, and what is the user trying to do? How much do you know about your brand? Are they going to know where to go for home? Are they going to know where to go for another section or another category, another tab as well, a tag that will give them visual sense? But you need to give them familiarity so that they'll know how do they get out of that specific page and then go back to the top. So the user will go from bottom up to probably go back to the top and then try to explore their way down, right? Trying to find what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish. But they have a task, and they're not coming to be entertained. They're like tasked, and they're looking for that pair of shoes. They're looking for that cell phone. They're looking for that vacation. And if they like it, they will buy it from you. That's all they care about. They don't think top, bottom up. You neither. But you should just think about, they will come to you from bottom up. They will come to you from top down. How do you facilitate both of them as well? So top down, often we associate with hierarchy. So it's the tree that we've learned. It's about the tree. And then if you look at iPhone and how the site is structured, they have their home, and then they have the main navigation in here. And then as you drill down, you probably drill down too, right? So this is your top-down approach. But I may very well come to your cell phone, to a specific phone, a specific page of your site, and I may never see what is really, and then I may have never started from the top, and I will come to a particular stage, a particular moment in your design. So the top-down architecture, the Apple main page addresses many common top-down questions that users have when they land on the site, including where am I, and I know where I'm looking for, how do I search for? So I think these questions are good for you to ask yourself. And as we move into your IA, or information architecture, for this week, which will be tomorrow, and when you go deeper and start designing the navigation in those pages, these are very, very important for you questions that you need to be aware of, that the user will want and will care about. Some of them are linked into the heuristic. So you know about the 10 heuristic evaluation. Where am I? Visibility of status, right? And this is very particularly important because if I'm on the iPhone X, so here I'm actually on a specific iPhone X. And I think I was on the iPhone X2 for the previous page, but I'm on the specific, probably detail pages. Where am I? Learn more, buy. So again, I'm getting a sense. If I'm interested in buying, this is where I go. If I want to learn more because I don't know, this is where I go. But I can go back home if I want. Or maybe this is not the iPhone. I'm not interested in the iPhone. Maybe I'm interested in the watch. Maybe I want to see the watch. I can see that there's something else for me. So I start looking up, right? So I go from bottom up and I go, okay, this is familiar as well. And then I make a decision. Now, how do I get around this site? Well, I can learn more, I can buy, or I can go home, I can go back, I can go to my get me out place, exit, in which we know that most people will actually use the home button as well, which is why you usually often find this. It's a way out. I'm lost, or this is not what I wanted, but maybe I want to explore. What is important and what is unique about this organization? Well, I think this question will be answered from what you will find in here. That will tell you something about how important. So I would say in your top-down question, the first one, first of all, you want to know what the business care and what's important to the business. So if you think of Nightwood or Simon or Theater, they were very, very interested in donate, right? So donate will definitely probably going to be something that you would end up putting at the top in here, very close. And then your show, your television show, your theater show, what's on show, what's playing at this point. And then they have community. You're probably going to have some community, and then some FAQs maybe, and renting the theater. You may already even get a sense of how important are they by the sequence that they're presenting these elements as well. You can decide that. You can play with that as well. You have that option. So it will tell you all about the business. What's available on this site? You get a lot of hints. What can I do? What can I do on this site? And here I know I can probably scroll because I can see half of an image. What's happening in here? So here it's the iPhone X, and I can learn, I can buy, I can scroll and see more. How do I engage? So all questions that user will be interested in probably knowing how they can do that. And how do we provide access? I think that these are good questions and things for you to think about. And then the bottom-up information architecture, again. Design emphasizing smaller components of the site based on understanding of both the content and the tools available to navigate, search, index, whatsoever. So where am I? What's here? What can I go from here? It's the same. The user wants to know that regardless of where they are. But here there are the very specific also view of the collection of pictures, collections by years, but you can see months. So you get a bit of a glance of where you are, but you're going to need to make a choice of where do I want to go next? What can I do? What can I not do? But at the end, I would say don't get too caught up in top up, bottom up, but you need to know what the experience and the user is. And then what do you need to emphasize for your specific brand as well at that particular point? This is just another illustration. Here I'm in the very, very specific Apple Watch Series 4. And maybe I did Google search, and but where am I again? What can I do? This tells me this is a title, and I'm inside a page. I can do these things. I can do this more gallery, but I can go home. I have a sense I'm in watch, and then there's another navigation here that I can't really read. And then I can probably buy, or I can add to my shop links, but I probably mostly came from Google. So I'm more in the bottom up at this point too. Then, and then here's a little exercise. So you can pick, or maybe you can do, you can take any pages if you wanted. And there's a bunch of questions that you can ask. and then you can mark on a piece of paper if you want. Let's see what that would look like. So when you're designing or you're thinking of a page or a specific page, and now we're kind of like almost moving away from IA, but we're kind of moving more about page layout and wireframing, you can start to think about, so when the user will come to this wireframe of this page, will they know what this page is all about? Okay, then the exercise that you could do with this particular in this with Apple, or you could pick any other pages if you want, then you start doing the exercise. Maybe you do that with your own website. So if you own a website or you manage a website today, take one of the most probably critical landing pages in, let's think of a high revenue flow. Maybe you take a hotel page. If you're on a vacation, you want to take a hotel page if you sell hotels. If you sell cell phone, maybe you want to take your cell phone. You want to take the buyer flow. You want to take a flow that is highly visited, that drives a lot of money. And then you start questioning or trying to answer these questions that that we gave you in here on the left-hand side, so that you can really see if your site is doing a good job or not from a user point of view. So do they understand what this page is all about? And then you draw a rectangle around the title of the page or write on the paper yourself. What site is this? What is this site? So obviously, but they may not know, right? Or you may want to Google. You may want to Google and say shoe near me, and then click on the first link and see what happens. Let's open up a session maybe, and let's try near me shoes. Near me. And I will click boots, brown shoes. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to do ThinkCloud with you. So I'm using ThinkCloud, which you could also very well use in cart sorting. And when the participant does the cart sorting with you, you will say, hey, Eve, sort the cards, but tell me what you're thinking. Then you would actually do this. They would actually say, okay, great, cards. They would try to, they will tell you what is happening. Oh, boots, easy. Well, boots. A style, a specific size, style of the boots. I'm going to put them with boots. Like they will tell you. They'll tell you why they're putting them together. It's very really. So let's do the first question. We've said, let's ask ourselves, what is this page all about? So, well, I've said shoes near me, and I click on the first link and I go to brown. So I know browns, I know the brown shoes, and I'm actually looking for shoes. Well, they only have shoes, right? So it's hard for them to try to sell me anything. Great, you can go wrong with flowers. So I'm on the home page. At this point, they've actually taken me to the home page. So, but it will be a different story if they've taken me to but I can see home. I can see my, we're talking on the topic of navigation now. So my left navigation, my product navigation. In sales, I'm already getting a sense of what the business priority is. Sales. They actually are interested in sales and deals. Where you may have other businesses that may actually not want to put sales first because they don't want to be seen as a deals or as a price sensitive or as a bargain place. And that was their choice at Air Canada Vacation. Leah, it's not too late to redo just for your own if you want to, right? It's a very, very powerful technique. So cart sorting or usability testing, if you've done usability testing or if you're going to do usability testing or perhaps you're doing it with me, it's very, very, this is the power of doing usability testing is think aloud, but even cart sorting, they can do think aloud. Now, at the beginning, they're not very comfortable with it. It sounds weird for them. But they get used to it. They actually enjoy it because they feel like they can tell you what they really truly think, and then you make note. It will tell you. See, when I do it, I'm sure you're learning things about how I think. It will tell you how I think. So, and this will help you for your structure, for your UI, and then also at the page or decisions that you would make, and how I would even architect my IA. But if you think Brown sells shoes, and then the business, obviously they sell shoes to women, men, kids, and they've decided to have a category by brands. So I'm just assuming here that I can actually browse by a specific brand of shoes if I want at Browns. That would probably I would expect. So let's say that you're Leah and you've designed this information architecture, and what I have just told you is actually not at all what you will find, and that you make note of it. right? You will know. But as a user, I told you, brands for me, I would expect that I could probably shop by specific brands of shoes, and maybe I can see Steve Madden. I love Steve Madden, and maybe I actually put shoes near me, Steve Madden's, but I still landed on this page, right? This could very well be. But so on the left, I clearly can see my navigation. I can see where I can go. And then I have what is called more like my utility bar. So, I can search if I want to look for a specific maybe shoes that I had in mind. My search. Now, this is probably store locator, but I'm forced here to actually pretty much roll over if they have even a little tooltips to give me what the icons are. But using no icons icons with no text is really, really risky unless they're really, really 100% understood. I think for the most part they are. They want to be light, but sometimes light will come at a cost. But anyway, they're taking me to a homepage. So and then I can shop for shoes and I can go for men's if I want. All my brands by brands. So let's see at the top. If I go brands, oh, I have to click on brands as well. You see, I'm surprised. I was actually thinking I would probably have a rollover like this, right? And then all brands, Uggs, Doc Martens, Cougar, okay, and then all my brands. Where are all my brands? Soral, and I said Steve Madden. I would probably click on Steve Madden. Okay, great. I got my Steve Madden, and then I can sell my shoe, my Steve Madden shoes. Wow, my God, they're actually pretty cheap. Maybe I should buy some. This is a pretty good price, $45. If you don't know Steve Madden, it's actually a good brand. I love it. Yeah, those prices are really good, right? Anyway, they've taken me to the homepage. So at the same time, I get to explore, and that's a decision that they've made. And you would hope that they've done a lot of usability. They've done a lot of optimization on their paid search, because I think we click on the Google AdWords keywords, Google search, and you would hope they've optimized. They've understood or they've learned that picking people at the brand when they say shoe near me at the homepage is more effective than taking them to a very specific. And I think it makes sense because I just said shoes near me and brown is one of them. They're actually not too far too. Okay, so let's maybe look at a very, very a different search. Maybe I'm gonna say Steve Madden search shoes near me and see if they're actually taking me to a very, very specific Steve Madden shoes near me. Oh, well, I've got Steve Madden, so, and that it makes sense. They're buying on their brand. They want me to their site, but then who else is there somebody else competing with them? It doesn't look like Brown Shoes is actually even competing with them on, but let's say Steve Madden, Yorkdale, but this is probably a very, very specific Steve Madden. Okay, where do I get here? So I'm on Yorkdale and I'm on Steve Madden and I can call them, but I want to buy shoes. I want to see what shoes wear Steve Madden. So actually, I quickly probably just leave at this point because I want to see shoes. I want to shop for shoes. This is a shop, so but it's a mall, so it's not where I want. So I quickly did my little assessment of where am I, what can I do, and unfortunately, I was disappointed because I wanted to buy shoes. Maybe I wanted to buy online, or maybe I do want to go to a store. If I want to know where there's a store, but this is not the nearest to me. It's here. I know that there's Eaton Center in Yorkdale is not the closest. But you see how I did a quick evaluation, a quick assessment of where I was, what was happening on that page, and was the option that I was actually interested in as one of the options available. And I kind of said, no, this is not really what I wanted. But I was actually interested in buying online. So what else can you ask yourself when you think of doing when people are landing to your page that is critical for us to think about? So okay, what site is this? So we've looked, clearly we knew when we've got to Brown Shoes, I knew what Brown Shoes was familiar. What are some of the major sections of this site? We were going through some of the sections. Navigation, we clearly identify where I would be shopping, was browsing for product. I saw the search, so I could see Where do I search if I have a specific item I'm looking for that I'm interested? How do I get to the top of the section of the site? It was really, really easy because it didn't take me really to specific, but I want someone to take me as to a specific page. So soft iPhone 11. Okay, I'm gonna go right into Fido. So I'm gonna be Fido. Where is Fido taking me? Okay, great. They're taking me to a specific page. Awesome. This is obviously the detail pages. It looks very standard from a detail page, but I can see that I can shop. I can see my account. I can get out of this page if I want. I can do my accessory navigation, my Find a Store. I can see my breadcrumbs. I'm in phones. I'm in the iPhone 11. So I'm on Fido in the phone section. I'm not in the smartphones. I'm just on the phones. And from here, I can get more details. I can only get one color. And I can continue if I want. And continue is probably if I just want to continue. Now my feature, this is a feature set. These are my specs for my phone. I can read more. I can abandon. I can see more details and more if I want. And then I have my footer navigation that is not contextual. But here I could say I can continue. And perhaps, do I want to upgrade my phone or add a line? I don't want to upgrade my phone. If I'm a new customer, what do I do? It's already detected me as an existing customer, but what if it's not for me and I'm shopping for someone else? It's not neither of those. You see, I'm kind of stuck here. So that is a bit annoying, but they've already logged me in, but and I was logged in from probably a long time ago. Okay, so here I know if I go continue, great. So I had to remember that I had to log myself, but this is all relevant to information architecture, right? We're designing a path. Oh, sorry. Let me just screen share. Thank you, Leah. So we're designing a path. So we're no longer just designing information architecture. You're designing experiences. You're designing a flow. We're going to be talking about flow. We're going to talk about navigation. I'm not even navigating here. I'm not getting through a navigation bar. I'm actually not even navigating. I'm actually just looking at options that I can do. I'm choosing options that are relevant to me. Maybe I do want to continue and learn more, and maybe I'm actually thinking of buying. Or maybe I want to sign in, but no, I'm not. I am a customer, but I'm just shopping. I don't want to. I still want to browse and get more about the phone, or maybe I want to go as far and see what will be the final price, or what would be my option with Fido payment program. $75. 75 per down. 75 per down. What is that? So this is information. This is information architecture. You're putting little pieces, but now it's information. You're providing content or information, and the risk is there's some questions, right? Now, but it could be you who's designing this, or it could be an interaction design. We talk about interaction design. So we're beyond reading here. We're about doing. So we set transactional very early on. So, and there's no more just information architecture. This is as important. I don't understand what their 75 per down is. I really don't understand. So is this I pay $75 per month and then I put down? This is new. I would really have to read more. Full price, $8.75. You see how I'm thinking this is no good. And the users, yes, I think so too, Leah, that it's probably a down payment, but I can get more information. Device full price, $8.75. Down payment, minus 75, subtotal. Yes, that makes sense, but I don't know why they put slash down. It's $75 down, right? And then you will pay $33.34 per month. It's the little slash. It's a small little piece, but yes, down is confusing. But I understand that if you put a down payment, but what confused me is the little slash per. Is it per month? Because I have a per. You're reusing something that is not consistent. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I get a clear sense of what I can do and what my options are. So that was important questions that you have to ask yourself as you're bringing people to specific pages. And why is this relevant? Remember, 70% or at least 50% of your people will come to your site from like this, from a search, and they will quickly go around and see what is happening and what's available to them. And then how do I get to the top of the section of the page? Very quickly. Because why though? It's because Fido has adopted a very standard way of doing their top navigation, logo, utility navigation. They have probably the search bar and the footer nav. They are using conventions that you will learn in your IA when you design your information architecture as well. So what happens is I can, as a user of Fido, when I come to Fido, let's say this is the first time and I've never been to Fido before, I can quickly use their site. I can quickly engage. I can quickly explore if I want, right? I can shop for more. I can get a sense of this is phone. I can actually go to phones from here. This is the beauty of breadcrumbs. There's one of the article that says breadcrumbs, it's actually still very powerful. The breadcrumbs are these little items here. They're very, very powerful. They do a few things. They tell you where you are. And then nowadays you see tags. So a page will have tags, cruises, 5-star hotel, Cancun, and then you can click and you can discover. They're very, very good for discovery too, but they are good to tell you visibility of the status. This is part of your IA. And then you're telling them, and then they can actually, it's flexible and it gives them another way of shopping. Maybe now I can go to wireless. I can see what's in wireless as well. But I can explore the site. Wow, this is a lot of information. There's a lot about pricing, and it has become very, very complex after bill credit, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so things have changed, and the regulations and the rules and regulations sometimes from the CRTC, like, is adding a lot of obstacle or constraint on cloudiness. So we're cluttering, but we have no choice. Like, it feels like it's very cluttered. But if the clutter is helping users to make decisions, then I would say it's a good clutter. Now I'm always presented with this option. Do I want to? Am I new? Do I want to upgrade? Do I want to add a line? At this point, I just want to shop and browse. But they're trying to really force me into a path. This is something that you will need to be deciding as an IA, as an information architecture. It is part of designing the user flow as well. So we're going to talk about flow and user flow, but when there's a button, then you'll need to say what happens with the buttons. From the user point of view, right? So we are interested in the flow from the user point of view. But if you were to ask a business analyst to architect the flow of the Fido website, they would probably have a completely different way of doing it. They would speak in terms of databases, in terms of systems, and what happens, what you need to call to even be to show. But when we say flow, we're going to need to show and illustrate what happens from the user point of view when you actually click on view details, and then what the options are presented to them. And then when they click on get started, what happens? What is the next experiences? So flow, that is what we meant by flow. Great. So let's continue here with more discovery. So there are a lot of questions that if you are able to answer, or if the users are able to answer, really the essence of, if the users are able to answer these questions, then it's going to be a lot easier for them to know what's expected or what they can do. But it's not so much what they expected. They know, they have a goal, they want to buy a phone, or they just want to learn. If they want an iPhone, cell phone 11 or cell phone 12, it's because they probably want to just read about the phone, or maybe they want to buy. If they say buy, then it would be really good if you know that there's someone who's coming to buy, and then you change your experience with someone who just wants to buy. But we're not there yet. That will be very complex, but you do know a bit more about them. And I would say this is 70–50% of the time they're coming to a place like this, to a very, very specific place into your information architecture. So that is bottom up and top down. But at the end of the day, you need both. You care about both. You care about the business. So what is the business interested in presenting? Very, very upfront. So if you remember the brown shoes, the shoes near me. Let's go to Adidas. Okay, let's get a sense. Adidas is really taking me to very specific shoes. Okay, this is great. So Adidas, let me share with you, Leah, my screen. This is awesome. I feel like I have a one-on-one teaching to Leah. It's a Leah's 101 top-down, bottom-up session today. Custom individualized teaching. So they've taken us to a page within the hierarchy, right? So we are on a template of a shoe. So we're very, very far, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're like very, very far. Yes, awesome. I'm glad to hear that you feel that you're getting your money's worth. It's actually more fun to listen live than having to listen to a recording, I would presume. And then you can ask questions as you go. So I really said shoes near me, and then I saw Adidas, and I thought maybe Adidas is good, and then I clicked on them. So they're taking me to the shoes, and then I can quickly see that I'm on Adidas. I'm in the men's, but they all men black, so I'm probably in the men's shoes. But I didn't type in men's shoes. I don't know if I'm in men's shoes or not. I didn't say that, right? But perhaps they may know that I'm a man. Now technology will know. Google knows things about me. Google might be sharing things about them. I actually been to Adidas website not a long time ago, and they maybe didn't know that information, but I'm curious. Now I can see more of what they have for me if I want, and then I can shop by brands as well, like Stephen Maiden. So you see how Stephen Maiden and Adidas or Brown Shoes have adapted some similar way of navigating. Now Adidas has sports. What shoes for? What kind of events or what kind of activities do you want your shoes? Not just for brand. And they've said we're going to put that as a top level category if we want. So it's a category that they've chosen. Maybe they've done some cart sorting. And then they found that people actually will think of buying per use, depending on what kind of shoes, like for what usage that you're interested in. And sometimes you see sports, but maybe sometimes you may see lifestyle. It's kind of funny that they've actually used sports. And this is only me thinking loud here. Perhaps it came as a cart sorting. But is sport really the label, or it's the usage, or it's the purpose, or it's the kind? Like me, these are things I would give you, and if you were doing a cart sorting for me now, you would probably be taking a lot of notes. Brands, yeah, I think shopping by brands is very easy, but maybe they had carts that had training, outdoor running, right, soccer, and then they've decided to create a top category called sports. But when you think of Adidas, I think you probably already think of sports. You're probably already in that mindset. You're using shoes, see Adidas. So I just don't know how sport is adding more value. And then I would say that I noticed that in some of the lab assignment from last week. And thank you for doing the lab assignment. I was really happy with the what I have seen, what you have done. But we have grouped some items under theater for Nightwood, but it's a theater as well. So the rest that you have found, and I think that some of you have run into, and I'm hoping I'm not mixing classes, but I think the Nightwood was with this class, is we had some of you, or perhaps it came up in the cart sorting with your participant, came out of a category called theater, which is all very relevant. Listen, if this is what has come up in your session, this is great. We're not here to debate it. But you're going to run into a lot of items that you're going to need you potentially could actually end up in sports or into theater because you're already on their theater website. So think of Adidas and think about this category called sports. Everything about Adidas could pretty much fall into that category because they sell mostly sport shoes. So what are you not going to put there? And that's always the risk. So same thing with theater for Nightwood. For the category theater, depending on how people think of theater, you may actually end up with a lot of items in there because it's everything about Nightwood is about theater. And this is where you start jamming things that are not really relevant. It becomes your big garbage place. And it gets really, really messy. And you have a lot of categories underneath it. When really everything is supposed to fit somewhere in that category because it's theater. This is what you do. When you think of sports, I think sport is probably maybe not a good, I think it's more about usage, reasons why, or the stage. Would filtering by sport make more sense than a sport category category? Yes, I don't know what the word is, but I would be very, very curious to understand sports. Is it running? Is it soccer, outdoor training? Perhaps what they may want to do is so it's kids. So men, women, kids are super easy to decide. But it's like what kind? Why? Like why do you need what kind for what kind of activity, right? So it's I don't know that it's sport. Maybe it's activity, soccer, training, running, outdoor. Well, I know everything is sport, but I don't know that sport. I was actually surprised. Brands, very very easy. By brand sneaker releases, new releases. That's sport is the one, and perhaps as a business, maybe you would want to make a decision. Maybe if you're not more, let's say you're more known about running and running is your top. Maybe you have running and then you have running and then you click and you go to running and you have that. I don't know, but this is where I is not always black and white, right? Perhaps they've done sport and people that really, really understand, but I would be, this is the one where I would be very, very. They've taken me to a very specific page, and we were on this on that specific shoe. I can add to my bag. I can see more. I can see other pictures. This is great. I can read more about it if I want. I can get a lot of detail about that specific shoe, but I don't know why they're taking me to that specific shoe because I only said shoe near me. So I would be afraid that they probably get two things. People are actually just bouncing back, so they go, but this is not what I want, and maybe I don't want Adidas, or they will go and they'll start exploring. But I would be very, very curious to see the effectiveness of taking me to a specific detail page for a shoe when that's not a shoe that I've looked on. I'm afraid of spending money for that, or perhaps people are exploring and people are buying, and they would all know this. They would have the answer to this. As the information architect, you would want to know this so that you can optimize your information architecture too. At this point, they will know where are people that are landing on this page from Google Ad. What do they do next? Do they actually explore? Do they go to a specific section? What is that? Nowadays there's enough data for you to know. You don't need to ask the user. You don't need to talk to the user. You can get the data from your Google Analytics, from Adobe, or any analytics tool. I know exactly what happens. Do they buy? Don't they buy? Where do they go? What's the first click? What's the second click? What do they do? So you get insights if it's effective or not, and maybe you can get insight about redesigning. So this is you're using bottom-up to know more about what happens when someone comes to this page. And then you can do it, you can also almost do a comparison of what is the data telling you when someone comes from Google Analytics land to this specific product page, and then what happens when someone actually comes from the home page to that product page. Do they buy more? Do you see more purchases from those customers? And what is the navigation path to those customers? It will be really, really interesting. And you could also even get detail of, are they on desktop or are they on mobile? And again, you don't need to talk. You don't need to ask. And you don't use cart sorting for this because this data, you need a lot of data. And then it's data that is available to you through the analytics and through the tool. But you're not going to get from Google Analytics how people will actually group the content, how people will label that content, how people will label those categories. You have to do it with people. You have to talk to people to do this. So in a cart sorting, you would not ask them to tell you, well, what if, and would you or would you not? First of all, would you is not a good indicator that they would. So asking people if they would doesn't guarantee that they would actually do. And often people don't even know what they will do. So, and this is why you're not asking them, and that was part of some of the reading or questions or asking good questions in cart sorting. It's not about what you or would you not do, what if, what would you. It's really trying to get inside of when they see this particular card, what does the card mean to them, and then where do they put it in the pile? Which other cards that they see as related, and why do they see them as related, and why do they are having maybe a challenge of actually putting a specific card in one pile? They'll tell you, well, I don't think they belong. So for me, parts. If I was given a bunch of cards, so pretend that you give me cards that say running, outdoor training, soccer, I would have grouped them together, most likely, but I don't know that I would call them sports. But perhaps you use a close sorting, card sorting with me, and you give me that category, I had no choice. But I would probably tell you in my card sorting, Leah, I know you give me sports. Sport is probably the only place that I would put the outdoor, but I don't know that it's sport. But here's what I think. And then I mentioned in one other class that sometimes some categories don't make sense at all, and you're better off and not even use or try to put things in the category. I think this is a good example of we're trying to put a category or a label to all of this when there isn't really one. The closest that I can think of personally is what kind of use for what kind of use. Perhaps we should look at their competitor, how they use it. But it's more about like style, or maybe it's style or purpose or reasons. But again, this is just me. Then you would do it with 10 and 15 people, and hopefully there'll be a pattern. And this is what you would do as a team. So if we had taken Adidas and you were running a cart sorting with Adidas, and for your outdoor, and they've put all of them, I think they would probably all put them running, outdoor, training, hopefully, and maybe not, you don't know. But then you give them the sports, and they say sport is not. But someone else will say, I think for me it's lifestyle or style or usage or purpose, whatever. Then you have 10 people that have says they call it style. Then perhaps your recommendation would be style, but with the question mark. There was hesitation. We don't believe, or there wasn't necessarily agreement, but the majority in our session, style is, or maybe they said style, maybe they said lifestyle, maybe they said usage. So that is what you would report on as well. But brands, you would see that everybody has put on the brands. So Adidas, you see how it's funny? Adidas original brands. Well, yeah, Adidas is a brand. Then Ivy Park, but these are products. They probably have very specific. If you're Adidas, then you know exactly what they have. And then Adidas sportwear and plastic waste. That would be very interesting cart sorting. I don't know what would have come up in the cart sorting too, but imagine you would have given them Adidas sportwear and plastic waste, Ivy Park, Stella McCartney. I can't, it's really hard to read too. And you would think in the cart sorting, they probably put them all together, but I don't know that they would know that these are all brands necessarily. So there's probably some guessing that has happened. So we're re-engineering, we're reverse engineering at this point. We're kind of thinking or anticipating what would happen in the cart sorting. Maybe you would want to run cart sorting on Adidas to really try to solve for this. Kids, easy. And then you see training, shoes, clothing, accessories, very, very easy. But then they get very, very brand or very specific under each of those category. When they start showing you for a training, RDY, Supernova, Alpha Skin, these must be brand. They must be like Adidas, very specific product and brand. I don't know. I don't really buy Adidas. So I'm sharing with you what you may find or what you would find. Usefulness of cart sorting, think loud, how powerful it is. And then bottom up and top down, it's just a way of telling you how you need to think and what you think about. And you have to think of the business priority. Think of the business priority. To top down will take people to an architecture or a specific section of your site. And those sections on your site will be there because the business probably said this is very important. Your analytics said people will come to our site today and they go to men's, women. They also look for brands we have to keep. And then you may even want to put them in the order of priority of what you think, from the left to the most important to the right. Switching order may or may not have an impact on visits. So that's really your top down. You're kind of deciding what you think, where people should go and what people will be interested in. And then you bottom up is you take them to a very specific page, but you have a bunch of questions you need to ask yourself around that I provided you that will help you. All of this, you need to take all of that into account for your information architecture. But when you do your information architecture, you don't go as deep as knowing everything that will be, because you're not even thinking of a page level yet, right? But you will know that people will be navigating within the page and people will go back to your home. But the IA itself does not need to have all of that level of details. At some point, you will. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how far do we go in details. You don't need to go far in details. At the end of the day, you're going to need to answer everything. You just decide when. But the more details you give in the information architecture right now, then that means that there may actually be obstacles to get you to have approval on your information architecture so that you can move to your next deliverable. And if you start mixing functionality and feature and labels, it's going to take more time to get people to agree. And they will feel that if they agree now that nothing can be changed, it will be harder to move on to the next step, which is navigation, defining the navigation, and then the flow and the user flow of, let's say, one experience on one page. And if you remember when I spoke at the beginning of the session in the class, we've been talking about defining the user, defining the needs, having a sense of flow, the step that they follow, thinking of a micro journey. We're no longer really building new site. We're actually optimizing or redefining those experiences. And then thinking through those very, very specific experiences and then answering all the questions. And you're doing top down, bottom up, and thinking of a user and how you facilitate them. This is all still very true. And then using standard, right? When I go to Adidas, I feel very familiar with what I see. Very, very familiar. You see my icons now. They also use icons and they don't have labels. I don't see this problem in my profile. The search bar is visible. I can see my like, I can see my cart, and I can see all of these items. They actually, Adidas so far, I would say except for sports, they have very, very conventional and very, very important pieces of information that people will find that will be relevant for them at different time. Exchange and returns. Remember we talk about the customer step, the customer journey. Which journey is my customer, which step my customer is in? Is he buying or he's already bought and he wants to return something? My needs, my information needs change. They're doing a job with exchange and returns. My order tracking, sign me up for newsletter, creators club. I don't know, that is probably loyalty, and then login, my profile, but how is login different? This seems to be a bit redundant. I don't know why we have both, but these will be choices that you'll have to make. Maybe there's a reason, but I find that redundant, but they might have a good reason why they've done it. So that was top down and bottom up, and just understand how they play and how important both. You need both, and you do in fact both. We just had not put any label. We had more readings last week. I actually found a lot more reading that I think I will add to IA, diagram basics and best practices, which is what we start tomorrow. And then for this week, tomorrow we have until midnight, or is it midnight, the assignment? Yes, until midnight to do the cart sorting. And thank you for last week lab submission. I gave feedback, and then I would say most of you did well. But make sure for your assignment that you do your individual cart sorting, all team members, and then you come back as a team and you say, what have we found with the zoo? And but you don't do a cart sorting, because then you're undoing your cart sorting with real user. You're not the user. Very important. You have until tomorrow, and then there's, yeah, this is it for cart sorting and top downs. And I'll be around if you have any questions. I will stop the recording of the session at this point.